I needed a break. After months of burnout and a breakup, I rented a cabin in the woods. It was supposed to be a peaceful escape. I set up my computer and got to work. But the first night was far from quiet. Around midnight, I started to hear a faint tapping on the window. It was soft at first, like a tree branch swaying. Then it grew louder, more persistent. My heart raced. I turned to the window, expecting to see something, but there was nothing there, just darkness. I tried to shake it off, but sleep didn't come easy that night. The next day felt strange. I left my coffee cup on the table. When I returned, it was on the counter. I thought maybe I had moved it and just forgot, but it nagged at me. I shrugged it off, thinking I was just tired. But as the days went by, more things happened. I would leave my phone on the couch, and it would be on the dining table when I got back. It made me uneasy. On the third night, I was focused on my work when I heard a voice outside. It called my name, soft and eerie, like someone whispering in my ear. "Mia," it said. My stomach dropped. I stepped outside, heart pounding, scanning the dark trees. But there was nothing, just the wind rustling the leaves. I was shaken. The following day, I decided to take a break on the porch. I was staring at the trees, feeling tense, when I caught a glimpse of something darting behind the trunks. It moved fast, like a shadow slipping away. I blinked, and it was gone. My gut twisted with dread. I looked around, hoping to see someone, anyone, but the woods remained still and quiet. Each night, the tapping returned. Each time I heard it, I felt more trapped. I could hardly focus on my project. I was spiraling into anxiety. On the last night, I got up to get water. That's when I saw it. A figure standing just outside my window, illuminated by the moonlight. It looked like a person, but it didn't move. My breath caught in my throat. What was it doing? Panicking, I hurried back to the couch. I tried to calm myself and think logically, but my heart raced when the voice called my name again. Mia. It was softer this time, almost playful. I turned, instinctively looking for someone. The room felt thick, like air had turned heavy. Nobody was there. Now I'm back home and can't shake the feeling. I lost a week to that cabin, a week of unsettling moments. I keep asking myself, what were those things? Was I imagining it, or was it something real? I thought the cabin would be my escape, but it became a strange prison. Something was trying to reach me. But what? I still don't know, and that gnaws at me. I spent the next few days trying to get back to my routine, but I felt different. The weight of the cabin lingered like a shadow. I tried working at my favorite coffee shop, drowning myself in cappuccinos and the hum of chatter, but every rustle outside made me jump. Each time I heard a voice, someone calling my name, laughter carried on a breeze, I'd scan the streets or the empty park across the way. Nothing. I decided to return to the cabin. I didn't want to, but there was this pull, like something wanted to reveal itself. I packed my bags and drove back, though my anxiety spiraled with every mile. When I arrived, the cabin looked just as I left it, yet it felt different. I stepped inside and noticed everything seemed untouched. It felt too still, almost waiting. I dropped my bags and took a deep breath. Maybe I could find out what was going on. I sat down in front of my laptop, forcing myself to work. But my focus was fractured. I kept glancing out the window. The woods were quiet, but the unease in my gut grew. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard the tapping again. It was faint, but unmistakable. I paused, my heart dropping. Should I ignore it? Should I go check? My legs felt like lead, but I forced myself to stand. As I approached the window, the tapping stopped. A nervous sweat broke on my forehead. I took a deep breath, ready to pull back the curtain and see whatever was outside. But when I did, there was nothing. just the endless black of the woods. Defeated, I turned away. But then something caught my eye, a glint of light among the trees. My pulse quickened, and I rushed outside. The air had grown cold, and the moon hung low, casting shadows that seemed to dance. I followed the light, curiosity outweighing my fear. It led me to a clearing, where I found something unexpected. There was an old rusted swing set, the chains creaking ever so slightly in the wind. The light flickered again, illuminating something underneath the swing. My stomach churned as I approached. When I got close enough, I recoiled. It was a small, weathered box. My hands shook as I crouched down to examine it. Something urged me not to touch it, but I couldn't back away now. I opened the latch with a creak, and there inside was a collection of objects: an old compass, a necklace with a cracked pendant, and a faded photograph of a woman standing in front of the cabin. A shiver ran through me. The woman looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. I reached for the photograph, but a gust of wind howled through the trees, making me drop it. As it fluttered away, I instinctively glanced back toward the cabin. That's when I saw it, a figure standing on the porch, watching. My breath hitched. The moonlight cast a dark outline, but I couldn't make out any features. Suddenly, everything went cold. Panic surged through me. I turned and sprinted back to the cabin, heart pounding in my ears. I stormed through the door, slamming it behind me. I needed to lock it, but I couldn't help but look back outside. The porch was empty, just the moonlight spilling over the boards. But my heart didn't slow, and an unsettling thought crept into my mind. What if whatever was out there wanted me to find that box? What did it all mean? I stumbled backward, my mind racing. Because the more questions I asked, the less I understood. I pressed my back against the door, trying to catch my breath. The silence of the cabin was deafening. I felt exposed, like the walls themselves could betray me. I needed to do something. I couldn't just sit there waiting for whatever it was to come back. With shaking hands, I grabbed my phone. I scrolled through my contacts, but I hesitated. Who would I even call? I didn't want to sound crazy. Instead, I opened the flashlight app and flicked on the light, scanning the room. Shadows stretched across the wooden walls as I flickered the beam, half expecting a lurking figure to step out of them. After a minute of gathering my courage, I moved to the window and peeked outside. The clearing was still, but my instincts screamed that something was off. I couldn't shake the sight of that figure standing on the porch from my mind. I couldn't even tell if it was a person or just my imagination playing tricks. I turned back to the box on the table, still open and silent. The objects sat there as if they were waiting for me. The necklace glinted under the flashlight, and I felt a strange urge to pick it up. Did it belong to the woman in the photograph? Why did she look so familiar? With a sigh, I steeled myself and reached for the necklace. The metal felt cool against my fingertips, and I lifted it from the box. As I examined it more closely, the pendant swung, revealing an inscription on the back. My breath caught. It read, "Forever in my heart, L." Before I could think too much, I suddenly heard a soft knock. It wasn't the window this time. It came from the back door. My entire body tensed. I barely moved. Who could it be? My mind raced through possibilities. I slipped the necklace into my pocket and placed the flashlight down, swallowing hard. Did I want to check? Did I want to see who was there? Each knock echoed in my mind like a drum. Finally, after gathering enough nerve, I tiptoed toward the kitchen. I crept to the door, peering through the small window that frosted over with the chill outside. My heart raced when I saw someone on the other side. It was a woman, tall, with dark hair. She just stood there, staring at the door. "Hello?" I called, my voice almost a whisper. She didn't respond. Instead, she lifted her hand and pointed at me, her face hidden by the shadows. I felt adrenaline spike through me. "Who are you?" I demanded, my hands trembling. Still no answer. Then everything shifted. I heard another knock, but it was louder this time, as if someone was banging on the front door. "Get away from there!" I shouted, backing away from the kitchen door. That's when I heard a low whisper, soft yet audible. "Help me." Chills ran down my spine. I felt frozen. There were two strangers now, one outside the back door and one at the front. My mind screamed for me to flee, but I stood rooted, caught between the options. Then I remembered something from the box, the photograph. I needed to find it, but I was terrified of turning my back. When my feet finally acted on their own, I rushed towards the table, looking for the picture. But as soon as I turned, I realized with horror that the whisper had stopped, and I didn't hear the knocks anymore, only silence. I stood there, the cabin wrapped in an uneasy stillness. My heart thudded loudly in my chest as I strained to hear anything. Footsteps, breathing, a rustle of leaves. Nothing. I glanced back at the kitchen door, the place where the woman had stood just moments ago. The air felt heavy, charged, with an anticipation that made my skin crawl. I hurried back to the table, scanning the remnants of the box for the photograph. My fingers brushed against a few other objects, a rusted key, a cracked mirror, and finally, the picture. I snatched it up, the paper crinkling under my grip. It depicted the same woman I had just seen. Her smile looked warm, but there was something unsettling about how it didn't reach her eyes. Then I noticed something else. The man beside her had a familiar look, but I couldn't place him. My mind raced, the disjointed memories swirling like a storm. Had I seen him somewhere before? The way his head was tilted to the side, like he was about to say something important. I needed to remember. Suddenly, a loud crash rang through the silence. The front door had slammed open, the old wood creaking in protest. Panic surged through me. I dropped the picture and darted behind the table. "Who's there?" I yelled, my voice shaky. No response. The cabin felt like it was closing in on me. I quickly glanced around. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows that only enhanced my fear. Every corner could hold a hidden danger. I couldn't just hide here. Against all instincts, I moved closer to the front door. I stepped cautiously, making sure to stay low. As I peered over the edge of the table, my breath hitched when I saw the woman standing just inside the doorframe. This time I could see her face clearly. She looked different, almost ghostly, as if she hadn't fully entered the room. "Help me," she whispered again, her voice floating toward me like a forgotten echo. A chill shot down my spine. Was she real, or was this another trick of my mind? I struggled to comprehend what was happening. My heart fluttered between fear and curiosity. Maybe I was the only one who could help her, but help her from what? In that split second, I caught movement to my right. A shadow shifted across the wall. I turned, panic surging again. There was a figure creeping in from the other room, a tall shape, just as the knocks had suggested. "Run!" the woman cried, her voice suddenly urgent. Before I could react, she vanished, and I was left staring at the dark figure advancing. Everything I had felt before turned into pure terror. My instincts took over, and I bolted towards the back door. I stumbled, almost crashing into the furniture, but I couldn't stop. That's when I saw it. In the fading light, the pendant from my pocket glowed, pulsing with a strange energy, as if urging me to look back. My stomach twisted. What had I gotten myself into? The door slammed shut behind me just as I reached it. I twisted the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Then an ice-cold wind rushed through the cabin, making the hairs on my arms stand straight up. And that's when I realized I was trapped. I pressed my back against the door, breathless, feeling the thrum of panic in my chest. The figure was close now, moving silently, like a predator honing in on its prey. I dared a glance over my shoulder, and every instinct screamed at me to run. But where? The pendant in my pocket pulsed again, this time sharper, as if it was warning me. I yanked it out, feeling its weight dangle in front of me. What did it mean? The face of the woman flashed in my mind, her desperate eyes pleading for relief. Did this pendant have something to do with her? I could hear footsteps now, muffled but distinct. The figure had reached the table, moving deliberately past the scattered objects. I felt like a rat caught in a trap, with nowhere to go. My eyes darted every which way, searching for an escape. I turned to the window. It was barred shut, and the glass was cloudy with grime. Memories of the woman replayed in my mind, her urgency, her disappearance. Then, just as I pressed my hands against the cool surface of the glass, I caught a fleeting glimpse outside. Something darted in the shadows, but it was gone before I could process it. My heart sank further. "Help me," I repeated, but this time it was meant for myself. I needed to think. I needed a plan. The footsteps grew fainter, and I could hear the cabin settling. Around me, the floors creaking, the wind howling. Suddenly, a loud crash rang out from where I had seen the woman last. It startled me, and my pounding heart quickened. There was something in there with her. In a burst of courage, I pushed away from the door and crept back toward the table. I grabbed the rusted key, feeling its rough edges bite into my skin. I had no idea what it opened, but it was my only chance. If I could find a door or chest, anything that this key might fit, I could change my fate. I stole a glance over my shoulder as I navigated the cramped space. The dark figure was gone. I pressed myself low to the ground, inching toward the kitchen. I noticed it, an old cupboard in the corner, half hidden behind a sagging curtain. Could this be the answer? But as I reached the handle, a cold hand gripped my shoulder. I froze, my blood turning to ice. I spun around, ready to fight. But it wasn't the figure. It was her, the woman, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Please, you have to listen." Her voice cut through my hesitation, trembling with urgency. "The key, it opens the truth, but you must hurry." Before I could ask what she meant, she faded away again, leaving me alone with the echo of her words. I felt a new sense of determination swell inside me. I had to understand whatever twisted truth was hidden in this cabin. I stumbled to the cupboard, the key clutched tightly in my hand. When I jolted the handle, it creaked resoundingly. What awaited me behind those doors could change everything. That's when the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. I held my breath, sensing the figure could return at any moment. It was now or never. With trembling hands, I thrust the key into the lock. I turned the key, heart racing as I felt the mechanism click. The door creaked open, dust swirling in the beam of light that filtered through a nearby window. I peered inside, the darkness inviting and foreboding all at once. Inside, I found shelves lined with old books, their pages worn and brittle. But one book caught my eye. It lay open, as if someone had just been reading it. The words were scrawled in a frantic hand. "They are watching. Find the pendant." My breath hitched. The pendant? Was it truly connected to whatever was happening here? But before I could process this, a loud bang echoed through the cabin. I jolted, the reverberation slicing through me like a knife. The hairs on my arms stood on end. I wasn't alone. Instinctively, I ducked deeper into the cupboard, heart pounding in my ears. I couldn't afford to be seen. My eyes darted around the small room, and that's when I spotted it. A trapdoor in the floor, partially hidden beneath a tattered rug. There was something beneath it, something that lurked. Just out of sight. My curiosity battled with my urge to flee the cabin. The woman had urged me not to wait. What if this was my only chance to find out the truth? Just then, a shadow flickered past the window. I could barely make out the figure outside, lurking just beyond the glass. Panic surged through me. I didn't know if it was friend or foe, but I couldn't stick around to find out. I had to act. I slipped back out of the cupboard, heart racing as I glanced toward the window. No one was there. Had I imagined it? Just as I stepped forward, the lights flickered once more, casting eerie shadows across the room. I rushed to the trapdoor. It felt heavy, the wood damp and cold. I pulled at the rusty latch, feeling it resist for a moment before giving way. With a soft creak, the door swung open to reveal darkness below, an abyss that seemed to beckon me. I hesitated. Was this what the pendant had been warning me about? But the woman's voice rang in my ears, insistent and urgent. You must find the truth. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the pendant from my pocket and dangled it over the opening. It pulsed faintly, as if guiding me down. Without giving it another thought, I lowered myself into the darkness. The cold air enveloped me, the smell of damp earth and decay filling my lungs. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from the darkness below. A voice, low and guttural. You shouldn't have come here. My heart plummeted. I wasn't alone down here either. Light flickered from above, illuminating the trapdoor just enough to show me a figure lurking in the shadows below. They stepped forward, and I recognized that face. It was the woman, but her appearance was different, as if she was caught between two worlds, her features twisted in dread. I stumbled back, clutching the pendant tightly. This was getting worse. What had I opened? What was she now? And then I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps above me, heavy and deliberate. Someone was coming to find me. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. The footsteps above me were close, too close. The woman's twisted face seemed to shimmer in the dim light, her eyes pleading, her mouth moving silently, as if trying to warn me of something. I couldn't make out the words, but the urgency in her every movement was clear. Please, don't make a sound, I whispered instinctively, though I knew she couldn't answer. The footsteps paused above the trapdoor, and fear surged through me like icy water. I could feel my heart beating wildly, threatening to drown out any sound I might need to hear. I had to get out of here, but how? The trapdoor was my only way in or out, and it wouldn't be long before whoever was up there decided to come down. Suddenly, a shaft of light pierced the darkness from above, illuminating the edges of the trapdoor. In that moment, I noticed something gleaming near the woman's feet. It was a small silver necklace, glinting as if it called out to me. My heart raced. Was it connected to the pendant I held? Is that it? I murmured, inching closer to get a better look. The woman's eyes widened, and I swore I saw recognition flash across her face. Just then, the trapdoor creaked louder as weight bore down on it. I backed away instinctively, clutching the pendant tighter, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill engulfing me. Whoever was up there would soon be here, and if I didn't find a way to hide or escape, I would be in their hands. I took one last glance at the necklace. It felt wrong to leave it behind, yet I had no time. I darted towards the shadows, pressing myself against the damp wall of the basement, heart pounding. The sound above grew more insistent, like a ticking clock counting down to my discovery. Suddenly, the trapdoor swung open, and a figure stepped into the light. It was a man, tall and clad in dark clothing. His face bore an unsettling calm as he peered into the darkness. I stiffened, my breath coming out ragged and shallow. My mind raced. Who was he? What did he want? "Hello?" he called, his voice disturbingly smooth. "I know you're down there. There's nowhere to hide." I didn't move, holding my breath, hoping to blend into the darkness. Behind me, the woman still loomed, her form flickering in and out of focus, her expression a mix of anguish and warning. "Show yourself," the man demanded, stepping further down the stairs. His eyes scanned the room, searching. My pulse thundered in my ears, making it harder to think. "Go away," I whispered, though I didn't expect him to hear. In that moment, I caught the woman's gaze, and she pointed toward the necklace with a trembling hand. I understood. I had to grab it. The pendant warmed again in my grip, as if resonating with the urgency of the moment. Then, everything changed. The man froze, his eyes locking onto the necklace. I saw his expression shift, a flicker of recognition, then something darker, more fierce. "You found it," he hissed, lunging forward into the murky shadows. All at once, I dashed towards the necklace, grabbing it from the ground just as he lunged toward me. I felt the air shift, thick with danger, and with the pendant still clutched in my fist, I turned to flee into the depths of the basement, hoping I could find a way out before it was too late. I bolted down the musty corridor, my feet pounding the cold stone floor. The necklace swung from my grasp, catching the dim light, my only hope in this nightmare. I could hear the man's footsteps behind me, echoing ominously as he closed in. "Don't think you can escape. I just want to talk," he called, but his tone was anything but reassuring. There was an edge of desperation in his voice, making it clear that any conversation he had in mind wouldn't be friendly. I skidded around a corner, my heart racing. Thick shadows enveloped me, and for a moment I thought about hiding, but there was nowhere to conceal myself. I took a sharp breath and pushed forward, trusting my instinct to get away. Suddenly, I stumbled into a small room. It was dark and cluttered, filled with old furniture and covered in dust. I scrambled towards the window. The glass was grimy, and I could barely see the world outside, but I knew it was my only chance. I forced the window open, wincing at the creaking sound that might betray me. Just then, the man's shadow darkened the doorway. "You're running out of time." Panic surged through me. I couldn't think. I climbed awkwardly through the window, scraping my arms against the sharp edges. I landed in the weeds outside, the cold earth biting into my skin, but I didn't stop. I had to move. As I ran into the forest, I could hear the man cursing behind me. "You don't know what you've gotten yourself into," he yelled, but I refused to look back. My feet were a blur, and adrenaline propelled me deeper into the trees. But then, everything went silent. The heavy realization gripped me. I'd lost him. He wasn't following anymore. I pressed my back against a thick tree trunk, trying to catch my breath. My hands trembled as they clutched the pendant. I needed to figure out what was happening. As I leaned against the tree, I noticed something glittering in the underbrush. Curious and cautious, I bent down to investigate. It was a fragment of a broken mirror, and in its fractured glass, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. My face was pale and eyes wide with fear. But just as I stood up, a figure emerged from behind the trees. A woman. She appeared to be dressed in the same ragged clothes as the one I saw in the basement, her dark hair hanging loosely around her shoulders. But there was something unsettling about her presence. "He'll come for you," she warned, her voice low and steady. "You have what he wants." "Who are you?" I gasped, my heart racing again. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer, her eyes piercing into mine. "You need to get rid of that necklace. It's cursed. The man, he's not who you think." Before I could process her words, a loud crack echoed behind me. The man was closing in, and there was no time left. "Run!" the woman urged, pointing down a narrow path that led deeper into the woods. And just like that, I found myself torn between the two, each offering a way out, but both shrouded in uncertainty. I had to decide. But before I could move, shadows gathered around me. Dread settled in my stomach. A deep voice rumbled through the trees. "Give it back." I froze. The man was almost upon us, and the forest felt alive with danger. I took a hesitant step back, my pulse racing as the darkness seemed to close in. I didn't know what the man wanted, but I could feel his anger radiating off of him like heat from a fire. My breath caught in my throat, and I glanced at the woman beside me. "Go," she urged again, her voice sharper this time. I hesitated. The path she pointed to looked overgrown and twisted. I had no idea where it led, but standing still felt like a death sentence. Just as I made up my mind to escape down that narrow trail, the man emerged from the shadows, his face twisted in fury. "Stop!" he bellowed, a wild look in his eyes. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. Was this all true? The woman's warning about the necklace? Could it actually be cursed? The woman stepped protectively in front of me, her posture firm. "You don't need to hurt her," she said. "She doesn't know. Let her go." "Let her go?" The man laughed, a harsh sound filled with disbelief. "You think she has a choice? That necklace calls to her. It's part of the key." "Key to what?" I interjected, frustration bubbling inside me. I didn't like being left in the dark. He flinched at my voice, anger sparking in his gaze. "Key to the truth. It holds power, and it belongs to me." The woman's eyes darted between us, concern etched on her face. "It's his lies that brought you here," she warned. "If you keep the necklace, you'll only invite darkness into your life." I could feel the weight of the pendant against my chest. It pulsed, almost as if it were alive, and I didn't know whether to throw it away or cling to it for dear life. "Make your choice," the man yelled, stepping closer, his presence imposing. "Give it back. It's your only path to safety." But I couldn't trust him. The desperation in his voice felt like a trap, tight and suffocating. The woman beside me looked sincere, but how do I know she wasn't just playing her part in this twisted game? Suddenly, rustling in the underbrush drew my attention. My heart dropped. More figures were coming, shadows moving through the trees. I could hear whispers and footfalls. They weren't just the man and the woman anymore. "Go," the woman breathed, urgency in her tone, pushing me toward the path. "Now!" I took a step back, torn between running or facing the chaos creeping closer. The air felt thick and charged, my mind spinning. Then I saw brief flashes of their faces, people with haunted eyes. My heart sank. That's when I made a decision. I turned, racing down the path. The woman's voice faded behind me. "The truth waits for you, but only if you dare to face it." I ran, not knowing what lay ahead, only the chilling sounds of pursuit lingering in my ears. Just as I broke free into a clearing, I stumbled to a halt. There, in the center, was an old stone circle. In the middle lay a half-burned symbol, its dark marks glowing faintly. The ground beneath me trembled, and I felt a pull toward it. Something was deeply wrong here. I had no time to think. Before I could decide how to approach this eerie discovery, thunderous footsteps echoed behind me. Someone was closing in fast. And then, everything went dark. When consciousness returned, I found myself lying in a field outside the woods. The sun peeked over the horizon, casting a golden light that felt surreal against the chaos in my mind. I sat up, disoriented, my body heavy and aching, and scanned the area. The woods loomed behind me, dark and unforgiving, but I felt drawn to them, as if they held answers to questions I was too afraid to ask. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for the pendant. My fingers brushed against the cool, familiar metal in my pocket, and just the thought of it sent a chill of recognition racing through me. Did I still have it? Was I supposed to return it? Or had I escaped, somehow put an end to whatever it was that haunted me? I stood, shaky and uncertain, and took a tentative step back toward the trees. The wind whispered through the leaves, a haunting melody that made my skin prickle. The memories of the shadowy figures, the woman's desperate plea, and the man's frantic warning flooded my mind. What had I unleashed? What had I run from? The woods felt different now, quieter, as if they held their breath as I approached. I peered into the thicket, half expecting to see the man charging out, filled with rage over the pendant or the truth, but nothing stirred. Taking a deep breath, I pressed further into the forest. The sun struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, casting erratic patches of light that danced across my path. With every step, I felt a pull, a sense of inevitability that gnawed at my conscience. Was this what the woman wanted? For me to confront the darkness? As I neared the clearing with the stone circle, my heart raced. The symbol lay there, still burned into the ground. Something flickered in my peripheral vision, a figure darting between the trees, a flash of dark hair. The woman. I blinked, half expecting her to vanish, but this time she lingered, at the edge of the clearing, her expression unreadable, like a puzzle I couldn't piece together. "Why did you bring me back?" I called out, voice carrying through the silence. "What do you want from me?" Her eyes glimmered, almost pleading. "To understand. You have the pendant, but the truth isn't just in it. It's in you," she replied softly, as though sharing a secret. "You must uncover what lies in the shadows." The wind picked up again, rustling through the grass, urging me forward. The man's voice echoed in my mind, fire-laden with fear and desperation. "Give it back! You don't understand what you're dealing with!" Still clutching the pendant, I stepped toward the stone circle, its significance weighing heavily on my mind. What if the truth was as twisted as the trees around me? What if it led me down a path from which there was no return? The woman flickered again, her form becoming ethereal. She was both distant and close, a memory laced with urgency. "You have to decide, Mia. Will you carry its burden or find a way to break the chain?" I felt the weight of the pendant in my hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat, resonating with something deep inside me that I couldn't quite place. A yearning for resolution, or perhaps a fear of what I would find. "We have to go before he comes back," the woman urged, her voice a specter. I hesitated, the darkness in the woods whispering of threats I couldn't see. But the decision was mine. Taking a deep breath, I stepped closer to the center of the stone circle. I had to confront whatever threat lingered in the depths of my experience. The world around me faded into a blur, and all that remained was a void of uncertainty and choice. "Maybe the truth is worth the risk," I breathed, the necklace beginning to glow like the sun rising on a new day. In an instant, everything around me shifted. The underbrush darkened, shadows stretching towards me like desperate hands. I closed my eyes, allowing the warmth of the pendant to envelop me. It felt alive, connecting with the whisper of the woods. I didn't know what awaited me, but I was ready for answers. "But we have to go before he comes back," the woman urged, her voice a specter. I hesitated, the darkness in the woods whispering of threats I couldn't see. But the decision was mine. Taking a deep breath, I stepped closer to the center of the stone circle. I had to confront whatever threat lingered in the depths of my experience. The world around me faded into a blur, and all that remained was a void of uncertainty and choice. "Maybe the truth is worth the risk," I breathed, the necklace beginning to glow like the sun rising on a new day. In an instant, everything around me shifted. The underbrush darkened, shadows stretching towards me like desperate hands. I closed my eyes, allowing the warmth of the pendant to envelop me. It felt alive, connecting with the whisper of the woods. I didn't know what awaited me, but I was ready for answers. But I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that some truths were never meant to be uncovered. As I pulled my gaze into the darkness, all I could think was, would I ever truly know what happened in those woods? The answers danced just beyond my reach, ideas swirling as I crossed the line between the past and an uncertain future. And just like that, I stepped into the unknown.